I woke to the roar of chainsaws, not the distant hum of construction, but a deafening assault right outside my bedroom window. Stumbling onto my porch in pajamas, I watched 4 men butchering the oak trees my late wife cherished. Trees that shaded our home for 40 years. Directing the carnage from her white Escalade was Constance Peaton, my HOA president, smirking with satisfaction. What she didn't know was that those trees were on my property, and her reckless act was about to unravel a 3-year web of fraud, embezzlement, and a massive property scam. What would you do if your HOA destroyed $50,000 worth of trees just to boost someone else's lake view? Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. That chainsaw stunt cost Constance everything, landing me a $1.4 million judgment that put her entire subdivision in my hands. 3 years ago, I thought I'd found paradise. I'm Garrett Blackwood, 52, a retired electrical engineer, settling into my dream retirement home in Millbrook Estates, Ohio, a 1.2-acre corner lot with 6 towering oak trees straight out of the 1980s. My wife, Sarah, passed from cancer 6 months prior, and those trees were my sanctuary. Their green canopy, a place to sip coffee and hear her laughter in the breeze. She always said trees proved beauty could thrive through storms. The realtor, Constance Peaton, 48, blonde with a polished suburban edge, sold me the house. She drove that Escalade with a blessed license plate frame and casually mentioned she was HOA president. Barely any rules, she said. Red flag number 1. Red flag 2 hit at my first HOA meeting. Constance ran it like a Fortune 500 boardroom, flashing PowerPoint slides about property value optimization and aesthetic standards. She shot down a 70-year-old veteran's plea for a memorial garden for his son, gavel-slamming, declaring it not in our vision. Her eyes kept drifting to my trees through the community center windows, calculating something I couldn't yet decode. 6 weeks later, she showed up at my door in designer tennis whites, clipboard in hand, perfume so thick it choked me. "Garrett, honey, we need to discuss your trees," she said, heels clicking like a countdown to chaos. Lakefront neighbors, she claimed, were upset about their views. I pointed out those $800,000 homes had clear lake sight lines, except for my oaks. "The trees were here when I bought the place," I said. "From you." Her smile stayed fixed, but her eyes turned icy. "Property values evolve," she replied. That was constant speak. Everyone meant her, and solution meant I'd lose. Over 18 months, she escalated like a seasoned bully. First came passive-aggressive comments during her power walks, eyeing my overgrown trees. Then, violation notices piled up. $50 daily fines for grass too long, mailbox misaligned, even my welcome mat's unapproved color. Appeals went to her hand-picked board of cowed retirees who wouldn't meet my gaze as they ruled against me. Comply or pay, but engineers like me solve problems and keep meticulous records. While Constance played dictator, I studied property, law, dug up original subdivision documents, and logged every interaction. Those late nights under my oaks, laptop glowing, weren't just about saving trees. They were about dismantling her power. The breaking point came when she hired a certified arborist to deem my 40-year-old trees imminently dangerous. Mistake number 1, the guy wasn't certified. His report was garbage. Digging deeper, I uncovered something bigger than tree fraud, something that flipped Constance from predator to prey. Those lakefront neighbors she was so eager to please? They were about to learn their HOA president was hiding far more than a vendetta against my trees. Constance's retaliation was pure theater. 2 weeks after her fake arborist flop, she showed up with a manila folder thick as a brick, smug smile, in place. Wonderful news, Garrett, she purred, her perfume stinging my eyes. Her emergency safety committee, her, Mrs. Henderson, and the Johnsons, had deemed my trees a threat to life. The folder held photos of my oaks in an ice storm, branches framed to look deadly. The audacity was stunning, but she'd slipped. Emergency tree assessments require real arborists. That evening, I checked the state licensing database, a trick I learned during Sarah's oncologist debacle. Constance's expert had a suspended license for falsifying reports. Better yet, Ohio's one-party consent law meant every recorded conversation, where she admitted obsessing over lakefront views, was admissible evidence. I called City Inspector Rodriguez, a no-nonsense guy who knew healthy trees from hazards. Handing him the arborist's rap sheet and playing Constance's recordings, I watched him survey my lot with a GPS unit, cursing under his breath as he realized he'd been pulled into an HOA scam. "These are specimen trees, Mr. Blackwood," he said, furious. "Someone's wasting city resources." He dismissed the complaint with prejudice and warned that another false report could mean criminal charges. I went nuclear, filing complaints with the state licensing board, city inspectors, and county prosecutor. Then I checked my property lines. The 1987 subdivision plat revealed my lot extended 15 feet lakeward beyond current stakes. Land neighbors were using for gardens and docks. Original plats trumped later surveys, a lesson from my father's estate. Mrs. Henderson cracked when confronted, admitting Constance claimed I'd removed the trees for insurance cash and pressured her to sign petitions to protect property values. She'd done this before, forcing out others like the Williams family over a maple. Then came the bombshell. Constance's lakefront mansion, the one she was desperate to enhance, sat on land designated as community green space in the developer's bankruptcy filings. She might not own her own lot. Her counterattack was desperate. 5 violation notices. Slapped on my door for trivial nonsense. Grass 0.3 inches too high, unauthorized mailbox color, even my garden hose improperly stored. Each carried $50 daily fines, $250 a day to bleed me dry, with a 30-day lien threat. But she'd handed me a paper trail. At the county courthouse, I found Millbrook Estates HOA's nonprofit status had lapsed 18 months ago, stripping their legal authority to collect fees or enforce rules. Worse, $250,000 in HOA dues had funneled into Peton Properties LLC, Constance's personal business, textbook embezzlement. The Ohio Attorney General's fraud hotline picked up on the second ring. The investigator's voice crackled with excitement when I laid out Constance's expired HOA corporate status and the $250,000 in homeowner dues funneled into her personal business, Peton Properties LLC. "Mr. Blackwood, you're alleging grand theft," he said. "That's just the start," I replied, flipping through bank records I'd obtained via public records requests. "She's been using our money to fund fake arborist reports and fraudulent violations." Digging into her past, I uncovered a chilling pattern. Constance had run identical scams in 2 other neighborhoods, bankrupting 3 families with relentless fines until they sold their homes at fire sale prices, all brokered by her company. Her Facebook posts were a gold mine, boasting about enhancing property values by removing unsightly obstacles like mature trees, complete with photos and captions confessing her obsession with lakefront views. She documented her own conspiracy. I called an emergency meeting with the 3 board members who hadn't been Constance's puppets, Henderson, Johnson, and a retired teacher named Clara. In Henderson's living room, the smell of coffee couldn't mask the tension. I spread out the evidence: expired corporate filings, bank statements showing embezzlement, and records of forced sales. Their faces cycled through shock, disbelief, and rage. She's been stealing from us for 2 years, Johnson growled. Worse, I said. She's used our dues to fabricate emergencies and fines. Every penalty she's imposed is illegal. Henderson stared out her window at Constance's mansion, gleaming across the lake. She insisted on handling all finances herself, she said. We thought she was dedicated. She was robbing us blind. Constance's final move came 2 nights later at another emergency board meeting, her city councilman husband, Richard Peaton, at her side for intimidation. Under the community center's buzzing fluorescent lights, she declared, Mr. Blackwood's defiance threatens our property values. I call for an immediate vote to authorize emergency tree removal and expedite lien proceedings. I stood, evidence folder in hand, and dropped the bomb. This HOA has been illegal for 18 months. Every fine, penalty, and threat is criminal. Fraud! The room erupted, but Constance wasn't fazed. She smiled, a cold, calculated smirk, and pulled out her phone. Yes, this is Constance Peaton. We have that tree emergency. Tomorrow, 7 a.m., the owner's traveling. She'd seen my Facebook post about driving to Cleveland for my daughter Emma's graduation. She thought she had an 8-hour window. Skipped Emma's graduation, a gut-wrenching first, stationing myself at my window with a camera. At 6:47 a.m., a convoy rolled in. 2 pickups, a wood chipper, and a sheriff's cruiser. The crew looked legit, but the work order, signed by Emergency Safety Coordinator Constance Peaton, was based on the defunct HOA's letterhead, legally worthless. I confronted them. These trees are on my property. She has no authority. Deputy Martinez, nervous and glancing toward Constance's house, insisted, Inspector Rodriguez signed off on this. But I'd spoken to Rodriguez 2 weeks earlier. He'd called my trees specimen quality and warned of fraud. Someone was lying, and I had the recording to prove it. The chainsaws started anyway. In 27 minutes, they obliterated 6 40-year-old oaks, including Sarah's memorial tree where I'd proposed, learned of her cancer, and scattered her ashes. Sawdust and diesel fumes choked the air as $89,000 in trees became stumps. But Constance's crew made a fatal error. They cut 15 feet past my property line, confirmed by the 1987 plat. Deputy Martinez paled when I pointed to the survey stakes. Jesus Christ, he muttered, radioing in. The foreman looked sick. Ma'am said everything on this side of the driveway was fair game. Constance had just committed criminal trespass, property destruction, fraud, and conspiracy, felonies witnessed by a deputy. By 8:30 a.m., my yard was a war zone, but my attorney, Marcus Bennett, called with a bombshell. Constance's lakefront mansion sits on community green space, he said. The 1987 development plan showed her lot was never meant for private ownership. Bankruptcy records revealed she'd paid $15,000 to bury conflicting documents and secure a fraudulent deed. Her real estate license required disclosing title defects, yet she'd sold homes while illegally occupying HOA land worth $850,000. Marcus added, She's used HOA funds for her landscaping, dock repairs, even her driveway. My tree damages were now a footnote in a federal case for reversion of stolen community property. Constance's empire crumbled. The Ohio Attorney General launched a fraud investigation, seizing Peaton Properties' accounts. The state licensing board revoked her real estate license for non-disclosure. My lawsuit, backed by neighbors, claimed $89,000 for the trees and demanded reversion of her illegal lot. The court awarded $1.4 million, including punitive damages, giving me control of her subdivision's assets. Her mansion was reclassified as HOA property, and she faced eviction. Criminal charges followed: theft, fraud, and conspiracy. Constance's web of lies unraveled faster than she could spin it. Every sunset she'd enjoyed from her stolen lakefront dock, every dinner party on her fraudulent deck, every HOA due she'd pocketed while squatting on community land, it was all built on a 6-year con. The $347,000 she'd siphoned through Peton Properties LLC funded fake landscaping contracts, non-existent maintenance, and $23,000 in emergency legal fees to her divorce attorney. Her illegal chainsaw massacre, destroying $89,000 worth of my oak trees, including Sarah's memorial, was her fatal misstep. It wasn't just about views. It was about covering her tracks. But she'd underestimated a retired engineer with a knack for records and a community fed up with her tyranny. By Tuesday, my dining room was a war room. Marcus Bennett, my attorney, arrived with a forensic accountant, Lisa Rodriguez, and an environmental lawyer, Janet Morrison. Lisa's spreadsheets exposed Constance's embezzlement, $347,000 in HOA dues diverted to her business, including payments for sham services and her personal legal bills. Janet's tree law expertise pegged my oak's replacement value at $89,000, but the real damage was environmental removing their roots destabilized my property's drainage, risking erosion and foundation issues for neighbors, plus violating a protected wetland buffer in the 1987 development plan, triggering Clean Water Act penalties up to $200,000. A third attorney, a RICO specialist, saw Constance's operation as a textbook racketeering case, systematic fraud, multiple victims, and conspiracy involving her city councilman husband, Richard Peton. Word of Constance's tree-cutting felony spread through Millbrook, estates like wildfire. Henderson revealed $8,000 in fake community center repair charges. Johnson exposed how Constance forced him to remove a non-compliant shed, then used HOA funds to install an identical one at her mansion. By Thursday, 7 families documented her harassment, manufactured violations, escalating fines, and lien threats, always benefiting her or her allies. The kicker came from Carol Martinez, wife of Deputy Martinez, who was sickened by Constance's $500 bribe to supervise the illegal tree removal. He'd been told it was legit, but no city record backed it. This was bribery of a law enforcement. Officer Marcus orchestrated a simultaneous strike, criminal referrals to the county prosecutor and Ohio Attorney General for theft, fraud, and bribery. Civil lawsuits in state and federal court for tree damages, property reversion, and $1.4 million in total claims, and licensing complaints against Constance's real estate license and Richard's counsel position. Ohio law allowed the HOA to reclaim her illegally privatized lakefront lot worth $850,000 via majority vote, which we secured as 17 families joined our class action suit. Her mansion, dock, and driveway, all maintained with stolen HOA funds, were now community property. When our filings hit Monday, Constance panicked. A moving truck hit her driveway by 10 a.m., a for sale sign up by noon. Marcus had an emergency restraining order by 2 p.m., freezing her assets. Her social media counterattack, claiming I was a vindictive neighbor dodging legitimate fines, backfired as neighbors flooded the community Facebook group with their own stories of her scams. Then she tried bribing Inspector Rodriguez with $2,000 to backdate a tree removal authorization. He was wearing a wire. Her recorded offer, $2,000 cash to pretend this got lost in the shuffle, nailed her for attempting to corrupt an official, a federal felony. 3 neighbors' affidavits claiming my trees were dangerous fell apart when we tied them to tax breaks facilitated by Richard, exposing official misconduct. Constance's desperate counter-lawsuit, alleging I harassed her and seeking $500,000 for defamation, was laughable. Her claims of threatening calls and vandalism were disproven by my phone records and security footage. Marcus grinned. She just handed us perjury. The FBI took interest, and the state licensing board revoked her real estate license for non-disclosure of her lot's title defect. The court awarded $1.4 million, including tree damages and punitive penalties, and reverted her lot to the HOA. Facing eviction and charges for theft, fraud, conspiracy, bribery, and Clean Water Act violations, Constance lost everything. My oaks are gone, but Sarah's memory lives in the fight they sparked. Neighbors rallied with meal trains and support, turning Millbrook Estates into a true community. Constance's lakefront paradise is now a community park, and her empire is ashes. How would you take down an HOA tyrant? Comment below and share where you're watching from. Constance's empire was collapsing, but she wasn't done fighting. As federal fraud investigators froze her accounts and the state suspended her real estate license, her husband's political career crumbled under ethics violations. Yet, she called one last emergency HOA meeting, claiming it would resolve ongoing disputes and address financial decisions. I sensed a trap. At 3 a.m., an anonymous text confirmed my fears. She's planning to dissolve the HOA tomorrow and claim bankruptcy protection. Thought you should know. A friend. Dissolving the HOA would erase the entity holding her embezzlement records, potentially shielding her from liability and complicating our claim to her $850,000 lakefront property, illegally built on community green space. I called Marcus Bennett, my attorney. She can't dissolve the HOA without a majority homeowner vote and state approval, he said. But she's desperate enough to try. We needed to counterattack. Deputy Martinez, racked with guilt, showed up at dawn with a bombshell. Constance had offered him $500 to overlook the illegal tree removal. He hadn't taken it but failed to question her legitimate setup. His detailed statement, outlining her bribery attempt, was our final nail. Sunday's meeting at the community center was electric. Cars lined 3 blocks, local news crews set up cameras, and FBI agent Sarah Bennett sat in the back, badge gleaming, scribbling notes. Constance, in a black suit like she was attending her own funeral, tried to control the room. "This HOA is no longer viable," she declared, gavel shaking. "I call for a vote to dissolve it and distribute assets." The crowd erupted. Henderson shouted about stolen funds. Johnson demanded financial transparency. Constance pushed for a vote, aiming to destroy evidence of her $347,000 embezzlement. I stood, evidence folder in hand. Before any vote, this community deserves the truth. Constance embezzled $347,000, bribed officials, and lives on stolen land worth $850,000. Her composure cracked. "That's slander," she snapped. I held up the 1987 plat. "Explain why your mansion sits on community green space." Silence. Agent Bennett's pen scratched louder. Constance's husband, Richard, tried to shut it down, but she unraveled. "You don't understand what I've done for this neighborhood," she screamed. "I improved property values, removed problem residents, and managed properties strategically." It was a confession. Wire fraud, property theft, conspiracy, before 50 witnesses, reporters, and a federal agent live streaming on Facebook. Agent Bennett stood. "Constance Peaton, you're under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, and bribery." Handcuffs clicked as cameras flashed. The room roared. I took the podium. "We've reclaimed $850,000 in stolen land. Let's build something beautiful together." Applause thundered. Constance pleaded guilty to 14 federal charges, avoiding a 20-year sentence. She repaid $347,000, forfeited her illegal property, and was sentenced to community service teaching real estate ethics. Richard resigned in disgrace. They fled to Florida. Her mansion became the Sarah Blackwood Memorial Community Center, funded by recovered funds, hosting art classes and bridge tournaments. My destroyed grove transformed into the Millbrook Heritage Arboretum with 40 new trees, each with a family's plaque. Sarah's oak inscribed, "In memory of love that grows stronger through storms," stands at the center. The $1.4 million judgment, largest HOA fraud award in Ohio history, funded the Millbrook Property Rights Education Foundation, helping 17 families recover $300,000 in illegal fines. The Millbrook Act, inspired by our case, mandates HOA audits and background checks. 3 other communities reclaimed $2 million in assets using our precedent. At our first tree festival, families picnicked under new saplings, kids played on equipment where Constance's Escalade once loomed, and we awarded a $5,000 scholarship to Emma Rodriguez for her property law essay. What you can do: report fraud. Ohio Attorney General 800-282-0515 or www.ohioattorneygeneral.gov. Check records, verify HOA status and deeds via Ohio Secretary of State or County Recorder. Document everything, record interactions, legal in Ohio, and save notices. Rally neighbors. Build a collective case with shared evidence. Hire experts. Use property, environmental, and RICO attorneys. Know your rights. Ohio law requires majority votes for HOA dissolution and allows reclamation of common areas. Constance's chainsaws took my trees but gave us a community. Share your HOA horror story below. Your legal options might surprise you. Where are you watching from? Want more stories of beating corrupt systems? Subscribe for next week's tale: a homeowner's noise complaint that uncovered a $2.3 million EPA violation. Smash the like button and join the fight against HOA tyranny.